So last week my buddy came over who collects rocks, and he had this crystal. He claimed he found it a long time ago by Lake Michigan, and that he keeps it on him at all times because it gives him good luck, it gives him good aura. I thought, cool, so it kind of fascinated me, and I looked it up later that night. It ended up me being up half the night reading about a civilization I never knew existed that used these crystals to store information. It was an ancient civilization of higher beings known as the Lemarians. It is thought that the Lumarians lived at the same time as Atlanteans. In 1864, Philip Sclater hypothesized another landmass must exist, due to lemurs being found in Madagascar and India but not Africa or Middle East. Experts believe the lost land of Lemuria was the first continent in the Pacific. It is said that Lemarians were the first galactic beings to set foot on Mother Earth, and their technology was much more advanced than anything we have now. So these crystals supposedly come from these Lumerian beings. Lumerians are considered beings of pure love and light. It is said they vibrate at the highest frequency, considered the keepers of Earth, like for part 2. So there's a couple different theories on how everything went down, but I'm going to choose what resonated with me. So I'm going to cover the antediluvian conflict between Atlanteans and Lemurians, and its role in the Third Galactic War. First off, antediluvian means before the biblical flood. So this is a perceived world map of Atlantis and Mu, which is also Lemuria, Mu just meaning Mother Earth. Atlantis, Lemuria. The conflict between these two higher civilizations caused great damage to not only Mother Earth, but it negatively affected all habitability throughout the solar system. It led to the death of Mars, and is probably considered the most disastrous war in all of the universe's history. The Lumarian Atlantean War was caused by a conflict of interest over lesser beings in the solar system. The Atlanteans wanted to dominate them and so-called guide them to their salvation, while Lemurians believed they should be left alone to evolve at their own pace. Lemurians taught oneness. Atlanteans started ego. So before I get back to the war, I'm going to teach you a little bit about what Lemurians and Atlanteans believed. The basic beliefs of Lemurians were beliefs in a higher power, love and respect for each other, and love and respect for the earth, and that these qualities are the basic foundation for spirituality. This was the spirituality of the ancients, and this is the spirituality that's going to awake within all of you. It is said as Lemurian memory is activated within each of you, it won't necessarily come in the form of information, but rather it'll take form of your own individual spirituality and inner wisdom. Today, people call this awakening to the fifth dimension. Some call it God consciousness. These were originally the teachings of Atlantis as well, until they fell to the ego by the fallen angels. Ego, of which we know today as being full of oneself, actually stands for easing God out. This is when they began thinking about enslaving lesser beings, which ultimately led to the War with Lemuria. Alright y'all, before I do a parts 4, 5, and 6 or whatever on this lost civilization of Lemuria, I want to go ahead and tell you guys that they call it a legend for a reason, and that's why I call it a legend on my page, just like my other video, The Legend of Lake Vostok. They're just that, legends. Now, could they be true? I mean, could anything be true? Yes. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't know. But I don't want people to get on here and think that this is me trying to push any sort of agenda, any sort of fact-based agenda is not happening here. This is all theory. I just like to challenge people to use their imagination and maybe think out of the box a little bit. But it doesn't mean you have to believe it. It doesn't mean it's true. It's just for fun. And basically, it would make a good movie. And that's all I'm trying to promote. That being said, I hope you all enjoy. And thank you for following. Lemurians' pre-war effort to spread the word. So in my previous video, I told you that Lemurians vibrated at the highest frequency. Here's what I mean by that. Think of it as the Earth's pulse. It's measured in Schumann frequency. To put it simply, it's the electromagnetic pulses the Earth naturally creates, and it can be affected by things like lightning. When it says 7.83 Hertz, that means 7.83 times around the Earth in 1 second. And to no surprise, we humans vibe at this exact same frequency from 7 to 8. Things like love have also been quantified at 528 Hertz. And a lady named Rose, when she does yoga, vibes at 320 Hertz. This is really high for a human. It's because of this, the Lemurians knew the apocalypse was coming. They knew this 2,000 to 3,000 years in advance, which may seem like a lot, but not to them because they lived almost 30,000 years. So during this 2,000 to 3,000 year span, they prepared. They sent out shamans to spread the word all over the world. They believed if preached enough, they could literally ingrain their teachings in our DNA. The war breaks out. So while spreading the word, Lemurians were also building large structures above and underground to protect their teachings. As master architects, they built beautiful underground cities and subterranean pockets, and they did this all over the world. While above ground, they used large, massive stones to build these triangle-like structures. I wonder what those could be. They supposedly did this to preserve some of their tech. In fact, since Google Earth, there has been pyramids discovered all over the world, even in Antarctica, many of which we still haven't navigated all the chambers. It is believed that some might hold the technology that is key to human life. Then, in around the year 2600 BC, it happened. Atlanteans attacked. This was within 100 years of Noah's Ark. But it wasn't the Lemurians, because they were smart enough not to destroy their own planet at this point. So they attacked Mars' moons using thermonuclear weapons. So Atlanteans just sent a nuke up to Mars' moons. Atlantean superweapon known as Nara-1, does that sound familiar? Was deployed to Mars, resulting in the destruction of Phobos and Deimos. This was weird because Martians were actually Atlantean allies, but they wanted to enslave them. They were showing that whether the Lemurians liked it or not, they were going to do what they wanted to do. The results were catastrophic. The Martian magnetosphere destabilized, putting holes in the ozone. This allowed for poisonous solar radiation to reach the planet's surface. This completely stripped away Mars' atmosphere and caused the boiling away of Mars' seas. Not long after, as a retaliation, Lemurians sent nukes up to Martian enclaves, which were actually a part of the Atlantean Empire at the time. This caused the glassing of the entire planet, resulting in loss of all water, forcing Martians underground where they still are today. The apocalypse of Mother Earth. Previously, as a show of power, the Atlantean Empire and Lemurian Republic. What does this remind you of, folks? Atlantean Empire, Lemurian Republic, planet-killing weapons? Where do you think George Lucas got these ideas from? They sent nukes to Mars, killing the planet, forcing the Martians to underground hibernation chambers, where they remained until the late 20th century. Modern-day human exploration led to the rediscovery of the chambers, and the Martians inside. Alright, back to Earth. After the destruction of Mars, Atlanteans and Lemurians took their fight back to Mother Earth, and began destroying their own planet. The first wave of nuclear strikes were at each other's territories, causing some areas of the globe to be completely glassed over, turning these territories into nothing but sand. This includes the Sahara and Arabian deserts, which were lush jungles at one time. Then came intense nuclear winters, gravitational explosion, and fault line detonation. As the mini ice age got worse, the war hastened due to escalated fighting between the two factions over the last few territories left. This is when the two sides did the unthinkable, starting with Atlanteans. Atlanteans deployed nuclear devices in the dozens to the Mariana Trench. You can see here it's just southeast of Japan. Here's Hawaii. Then Atlanteans detonated the high-yield nuclear bombs. The explosion caused massive downward compressions and tectonic waves traveling at the speed of sound, which in turn triggered magnitude 12 and 13 earthquakes all along the Pacific Rim. This also caused much of Lemuria to sink. Then, in quick retaliation, Lumarians set off Nara-1, Atlantean superweapon. After the Lumarians detonated Nara-1, it caused the Earth to become very unstable. This was because the blast caused omnidirectional gravitational waves to rip through the Earth's and the Moon's core, wreaking havoc on her interior. With the destabilization of the Earth's interior, disaster loomed even closer because of the shift in the Earth's magnetic axis. Geomagnetic North Pole moves almost 30 degrees from its original intersection point in Greenland to here, which is where it's at today. While all this was taking place, the moon was so hot from the gravitational waves it was glowing red. These results are why Nara-1 is considered so devastating. Massive earthquakes, mega tsunamis, and supervolcanoes put the nails in the coffin on the apocalypse. During the chaos, most of the Atlanteans and the remaining Lemurians left the planet, while humans began building arks. After Lemurians and Atlanteans set off nukes that caused massive earthquakes, supervolcanoes, and mega tsunamis, they fled the Earth knowing all well what was coming. Seeing this, God grew concerned, so he guided the humans to what land was left and told them to begin building arks. With God's help and the scarce amount of tech that remained on Earth, this is what they came up with: the Noah's Ark of space. This ark would be a technological marvel today. It had bodies of water, lush vegetation, and even seeds for humans to plant and thrive. So the animals and insects that couldn't get on the ark, they put their embryos in incubation chambers and preserved them for future repopulation. To some, this may seem far-fetched, but Jeff Bezos, the owner of Amazon, actually is building prototypes of an ark right now.
Once every human and animal was on that could fit, they flew up to space where they remained in orbit. This is where they'd stay while the debris from Mars' moons hit Earth. Lemurians, I couldn't find any proof that they did flee the planet, but I did find proof that they are here in Mount Shasta, living in the mountain in a city named Telos.
We'll get to Mount Shasta here in a minute though.
Once they got everything and everybody on the Ark, the remaining humans, along with non-human species such as giants, fairies, elves, and dragons, folks. Yes, you heard me right, friggin' dragons. They all fled to Agartha. Many know this as Hollow Earth.
A lot more people than you'd expect actually believe this theory, and they say it houses creatures as old as dinosaurs.